girl, hey. Oh my God, you look so good. That tank top, t-shirt, hoodie you're wearing makes you look awesome. So we're trying something new today, a brand new series that is inspired by an old internet rule. I didn't bother to look it up before I started recording, but here it is. It's pretty much if you look up a particular type of adult video and it doesn't exist, like the theming that you think of doesn't exist, you have to make it. Well, upon my internet searches, it turns out with my YouTube watching, I am into some book series that don't get a lot of love here on YouTube. Maybe they get like the historical treatment, like the deep dives into how these things got made, but they don't really touch on some of the nuances that collectors might care about. So I'm here to fill your void. Everything you need to know about Vampirella comic books, both in history, the character, reading and collecting. You're going to see me look down sometimes. This one's a little different because I do have some script notes. I wanted to be a little bit more collected in my thoughts because I want to give you that quick, punchy information that you need. You're a busy person. Shouldn't I respect your time? Yes. Herstory. This was an every other month title starting in September of 1969. And it wasn't even until her third issue in January of 1970 that she officially moved from the Silver Age to the Bronze Age. But she is a Silver Age lady to me forever. And when you read some of the stories that they make in the original Vampirella books, boy howdy are they Silver Age. So what were the original Vampirella books? Well, it was a company called Warren Publishing. And effectively, she was a hot crypt keeper. She would be a host for these comics where it was short stories, vignettes of horror stories. And she would always begin with a pun, end with a pun, and look good while doing it. That's Vampirella. It wasn't even until issue 8 that they gave you a detailed story involving her. In issue 1, you get this kind of like really lame contextual backstory of like, here she is. Isn't that neat? Let's move on. But in issue 8, she actually became one of the stories in the books. So if there were like 5, 6, or 7 different stories in issue number 9, she would be one of them, and the rest are still just short horror stories. Another thing, issue number 12 is when her most prolific and beloved artist came on the scene. Now, this is going to be a hot take. I believe in my little heart that the artist that came on in issue 12, his name is Jose Gonzalez, is in fact the best penciler in the Silver Age. I'm going to put some art up here, and when you see it, that's cover art. That's not interior art. If that person existed today and they were making books, they would exclusively be doing covers. But we got sequential art by this guy, Jose Pepe Gonzalez. Yes, that was his nickname. Look it up. So that series ended in issue 112, where it was sold off to a company called Harris Comics, who took the baton, ran with it for a number of years, and then they sold it to the present-day owner, Dynamite Comics. So there's this kind of like three prongs of a trident, if you will, of Vampirella's history. And it's these 3 different companies, Warren, Harris, Dynamite. But who is Vampirella? Vampirella is an immigrant to Earth from a planet called Draculon, where all their water is blood. That sounds really stupid, I know, but it's the 60s, bear with me. No more stupid than like a teenager getting bitten by a radioactive spider. In typical Krypton fashion, Draculon was experiencing a historic drought. So all of the water on their planet that was in fact made of blood is no longer available. The suns on the triple suns, I think they have like a Tatooine kind of setup, are burning this planet's water away. And so they're left with nothing. They start to become feral vampire creatures stuck on this planet starving, going crazy, first issue. Some very dumb explorers from our planet land on Draculon, 2 astronauts, and Vampy eats their asses up. After which, she hops into their conveniently autopiloted ship back to Earth and the good old US of A, and that's really all you need to know. Vampirella doesn't really grow. She doesn't really develop as a character, which has its benefits and its drawbacks. Benefits: anybody can jump on at any point in time and enjoy a Vampy story because you're all kind of experiencing her on the same playing field. If you've read Vampirella issue 1 through 10, aside from a couple minor plot points, which won't even impact the main story that's happening in her story, you can still enjoy the same thing all of us are. There's so many big, thick text blocks to catch you up on the story if it is impacting the current events that you never really have to worry about being left in the dark. And currently, the way they kind of handle Vampirella is these stories come out that are like 5 and 6 issue arcs. Vampirella and the superpowers. Vampirella and her falling in love with Dracula. Unholy is the name of it. Vampirella and Red Sonja meet Betty and Veronica. Yes, that happened. But because the character's so basic and because she doesn't really grow that much, over time, you can just kind of hop in at any point in time. Hop in, hop out. 5 issues. Vampirella themed as a hot dog cart operator in New York City. Isn't that going to be fun? Hop on. You'll have a great time. And then if you don't like the next arc or what it sounds like, what it appears to be, Vampirella is a cabaret singer in the 20s. You don't have to read it. Doesn't matter. It's not going to impact your enjoyment. Vampirella is to some extent, alarmingly sex-positive, polyamorous individual. She likes relationships with people. She develops relationships quickly if she senses you're a good person, and she's also quick to destroy those who hurt good people. Depending on the writer, she goes back and forth as to whether or not she's okay with killing. Depending on the situation, she goes back and forth on whether she's okay with killing. So that's pretty nebulous. This all lends to a general blank slate that allows artists to be artists when they take over for writing. You want to have a revenge John Wick kind of tale, you can do that. You want to have like Doctor Who style fighting, vampire killing ninja nuns, you can do that too. It has a lot of breathing room to be creative. The downfall of all of that space, freedom, and creativity is something I like to say. Vampirella is never going to lose an eye. Vampirella is never going to lose an arm. They're never even going to change her hair color. She suffers from something that a lot of the big publishers actually do to their characters. And I like to call it the rental car system. So anyone familiar with like Hertz or Avis or anything, all those car companies have a very specific policy. You need to return the car in the same or better condition when you're done with it. And so Vampirella's writers are kind of hamstrung in the same way that Spider-Man is, in the same way that Batman is, in the same way that the X-Men are, although that gets a little bit more grace because you have more characters to play with. When a big new hot writer hops on to Captain America, they're contracted for so many issues. Let's say 12. They're going to do a 12-issue run, 1 year of Captain America. When that year is over, Captain America can go through trials, tribulations, learn lessons, enemies become friends, friends become enemies, all that stuff is good. But at the end of it, when they turn the character back over, he has to be the exact same as he was, and it's maddening. It's maddening because there's no real growth. It's all artificial growth. Spider-Man fans right now know exactly what I'm talking about. But it has to be that way because it sucks because writers are not just creative individuals. They're custodians of these characters. And so they can't take Superman, make him bald, have him leave Lois Lane and beat up his kid. You can't do that because the next writer has to take over, and Superman's a perennial character. He's never going anywhere. He's always going to be somewhat in fashion. Vampirella, it's unfortunate that they don't take more risks with her. I would like to see her lose an eye, and she's a vampire from another planet. There's nothing to say that she can't grow it back, but yeah, like, let's have some fun. Collecting. The Warren books, the original run for Vampy they're expensive. In the first 12. That first 12, if you're looking for any advice from a long-term collector, get him out of the way. You'll have a greater attachment to the character, as we all do, because we're weirdos when we get a hold of a #1 issue. But those first 12 issues, that's what introduces the Pendragon characters. Those are kind of like their... who's that guy that hunts Dracula? Van Helsing. You know, they're enemies, but she also falls in love with one of them at one point. That's where you also get the Cult of Chaos and Evilly. Terrible name, but that is her arch nemesis and like arch nemesis group, like her Brotherhood of Mutants kind of deal. Even her sister, Draculina, which is just... I love that name. Now, in regards to collecting, after issue 12, you should not be paying any more than $25. Most of the issues that you're going to see once we get to my collection, I got for about $15. Most of them. Some of them in lots, which if you break down, go down to $15. But if you pay one thin dime over $25 for a non-key, which is most of them, issue, you're getting fleeced. And I got to tell you, when you see some of the Vampy books in my collection, you're going to go, ooh, that's clearly low grade. But they're hardy books, I gotta say. The interiors are fantastic. The staples, in my experience, rarely pop. The covers can be chippy and break away. You'll see some great examples from my books about that. But overall, they're a tough cookie. You can put them through the ringer. The other side of collecting, Vampy, her modern books have an irrational amount of variant covers. That is not uncommon for small indie publishers to do that. Interior art costs a lot of money. You got to pay the writer. You got to pay the artist to do all those sequential pages. That's a big chunk of cash. You know what's cheap? A hot artist doing one cover and then moving down the road. So they'll put their investment into one book, one story, right? And then 10 artists will do 10 different covers, but they're really just selling you the same story 10 times. Now, this is a general rule of thumb, but if you're talking about collecting and preserving your investment, you spent $20, you don't want that $20 to be $5 6 years from now. You want it to either retain its value or grow. This is a hot and fast rule, but it works. If you can see the trade dress, that's for newcomers, that's the title of the book. Like if you can see the words Vampirella on the cover, if you can see any words on the cover, that will be in the dollar bins in about a year. It's like if Artgerm has 10 different variations of this particular Vampirella book, 3 of them will have trade dress, and then 4 of them won't, and then 3 of them will be neon colors. So you get a wide variety, but the trade dress ones are always going to be the cheapest because, let's keep it a buck, she is a beautiful character, and that trade dress covering any part of that beauty is something that I don't want to see it. I myself am a collector of the Virgin variants, and most of the collectors are, so if you want the book to retain value, those are the ones you want to go for. Her Virgin variants are also usually like 1 in 20s, 1 in 25s. However, she also does have a lot of 1 in 500s and 1 in 250. Vampirella's modern books are overwhelmingly purchased by the end collector. What do I mean by that? An X-Men Virgin variant comes out. Do X-Men fans buy it? Absolutely they do. but so does the guy who wants to send it off to CGC to try to make a buck. So does the gal who wants to add it to a lot of other variant covers so that she can sell it to an X-Men fan. Vampirella books are overwhelmingly procured by Vampirella fans. So for the company, Dynamite Press, that means they have a dedicated user base who comes back again and again. Guys like me. For the baby investor, they got to be quick on their feet because those variants go like that, especially the super hot ones. There's one out right now. It's a 1 in 20 for Vampirella versus the Superpowers. And you can tell that this cover was the one they were banking on being super popular. And this cover was just a really beautiful cover. This cover right here is an actual spooky ghost. There are days when you just can't find it. You literally can't find it on eBay. You can't find it anywhere. It doesn't exist because it was snapped up by the end users. So if you're getting into Vampirella collecting, understand that if there are 500 copies of a given book, they could all be gone. And after a couple months, as the Vampirella collectors eat all this stuff, it's possible that there are books that you literally can't buy anymore. Modern books that you can't buy. What? It's true. Because those users, they're the end ones. They're going to be holding on to it until the end of time. They'll be buried with it King Tut style, and they're not going to be reselling it, putting them back on the market. So you're just kind of stuck not getting the book that you want. So with Vampirella, if you're dedicated, you can get in, you get early, you buy the books you want, and you're good to go. Where do you buy these things? Well, eBay is a great place to start. When the variants start to climb in price, eBay is where you're going to notice it first. Vampirella doesn't really register on things like Go Collect, doesn't register on Key Collector, because if it's a 500 limited pressing, like there's only 500 of a given cover, that's not enough to move the dial on super hot sellers, even if every book sells out, which they often do. So eBay is a great way of telling, like, what is your book valuing at? What is it selling at? Are there any others out there? If you can't find the book, if it becomes one of those ghost covers like I was talking about, good golly, more people need to go to the Dynamite website itself. I have found that if you go to Mercari, if you go to eBay, you go to these different seller sites, and you can't find a variant cover you're looking for, sometimes I've been able to go to dynamite.com, I plug it in, bing, bang, boom. It's right there, ready to go. I experienced the same thing a lot with my collection of crossed comic books. You can get them right on Avatar Press. But a lot of people don't think to do that. Like if you're looking at an indie book, go right to the publisher, go to the source. Sometimes they are there. Not always, but sometimes. So that kind of covers everything in brief. Obviously, there are a lot of nuances that come with experience, but these are just my experiences that I wanted to give to new people coming in. What is she about? What is her history about? What does reading Vampirella feel like? And collecting Vampirella, what does that look like? So I hope this was useful to you. If you found this entertaining at all, like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, not because I'm posting every week 2 videos, but I am. But because with these videos that I want to do, I want to also do a compendium to show off the collection. So you can see, like, if you put these things I'm telling you into practice, these are the types of collections you can cultivate. So the next video that's going to come out whenever, because I don't live by a schedule yet because my audience is this big, I'm going to, in the next few days, put up just my collection, comic by comic. This is what I have. This is what the variants are, just so you can get a look at it. But I hope very much this was useful to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comment section below. It is a ghost land out there, so I am answering everything. Super accessible.